Hibbler Productions, płaska ziemia, Dave Murphy i inni płaskoziemcy. No, co może pójść nie tak?
When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now, and it's coming from the aircraft.
No to pozostaje wersja SD na YouTubie. Zacznijmy może od początku. 21 grudnia na kanale Naczelnego Guru Płaskiej Ziemi, YouTube, pojawił się film. Film o nazwie Lewy. VTR Movie Trailer.
In a world that tells us science has been settled.
For years now, space programs have been nothing but trickery. Sometimes the trick is easily noticed. Other times, it goes over your head. For the man that started it all. To the men who continue the agenda. Real science proves water finds and maintains its own level. It doesn't matter who tries to sell you the idea that oceans are curving around a ball. There is no curvature. So there it is. The Earth from outer space. Do you believe this is a real, live recording?
To jest cinematic shot. To jest CGI. To jest grafika komputerowa. Ja mogę coś takiego zrobić. Nawet nie potraficie znaleźć wschodu słońca z ISS. To jest wschód słońca z ISS.
Maybe you just never paid attention. When you do pay attention, you start to notice things. Are you paying attention?
Najpierw pokazujecie nagranie z boostera Falcona 9, a potem pokazujecie nagranie z górnego stopnia Falcona 9. Czy to może mieć jakiś związek?
Did you know that starting at the end of 2015 through 2017, flat Earth was one of the top searched terms in the USA, let alone the world? While most of you were falling for the political charades, the rest of us were trying to discover the true nature about our world.
No tak średnio bym powiedział, tak średnio.
Tak w ogóle mówicie, że zaczynając od końca 2015, a na grafice jest 2014.
Do you remember this? Why would Google be promoting this?
As a joke?
As a joke? No. We know why. They were panicking. Panicking because the platform they purchased 10 years ago was collapsing with truth. Have you ever seen a time lapse of the sun? Does it look like the Earth is rotating backwards and the sun is still? Or does it look like our sun is simply moving across our sky, traveling away from your perspective? Again, but with some inversion. You can clearly see the sun, not only decreasing its size, but heading towards its next destination with a slight turn before it disappears from your line of sight. While Google would make sure when you type in flat Earth that nothing like this would ever pop up, you can clearly see
Jeżeli ten film będzie miał chociaż jeden dobry argument, który nie będzie manipulacją, albo skutkiem niewiedzy, to włożę głowę do piekarnika na 40 minut. Patrzycie na filmy zachodów słońca i mówicie, że nie ma zachodu słońca, tylko to słońce się oddala i to działa perspektywa.
No tak średnio bym powiedział, tak średnio.
Zmniejszenie słońca jest iluzją, wystarczy użyć filtru słonecznego.
That the sun is a massive ball of burning gas 93 million miles away. But if that were true, then all the light that arrives here would be parallel because it's so far away. And it has to be parallel because one of the most often cited supposed globe proofs is Eratosthenes' experiment between Alexandria and Syene, by which he calculated the size of the Earth. For that calculation to be accurate, the light must come down parallel.
Wszystkie promienie na tym zdjęciu, co do jednego, są do siebie równoległe.
If you go out on a sunny day with broken cloud, what you'll see is that light comes down at angles, diverging angles. And that means that we can follow those light rays back to the source and triangulate the sun's height above the Earth. But we can also perform physical experiments that prove that these crepuscular rays, as they're called, can only be recreated with a light source that is small and close.
It doesn't take a genius to understand that the further the light source goes up, the more the sun rays would spread out and become parallel. You can keep believing in your fantasy gas ball 93 million miles away.
You can keep believing in your fantasy gas ball.
While we keep experimenting to try and figure out what the sun actually is, and how close it could be.
Słońce to żółty karzeł, który jest centralną gwiazdą Układu Słonecznego. Jej typ to typ widmowy. G jest oznacza, że fotosfera, czyli widzialna powierzchnia Słońca ma temperaturę w zakresie od 5000 do 6000 kelwinów. Słońce znajduje się około 105 milionów kilometrów od Ziemi.
Imagine a table 2 meters wide in a completely dark room, and you're holding a small but very bright light bulb, 3.4 millimeters across. And you were holding it about 31 centimeters above the table. What you'd see is a circular pool of light directly on the table, beneath the light bulb. But on the other side of the table, it would be in darkness. Now, it seems to our mind that if you were on the other side of the table, you would see the light because it's, above the table. But that's not true, because on that part of the table, it's in darkness, meaning that the light isn't physically reaching that part of the tabletop. If you were on the other side of the table, you would see the light because it's, above the table. But that's not true. But that's not true. We're also told that the sun sets because as the Earth rotates us away from the sun, it's actually obscured by the physical curvature of the Earth. That's not what we see.
What we see is a local sun that is taking its local light with it. What happened to the horizon glowing across half of the world?
Pozostawię to bez komentarza.
Most sunsets are already fading through pollution, dander, chemtrails, and fog.
When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now, and it's coming from the aircraft.
Many times we can see time-lapse footage of the sun that shows it getting smaller as it moves away from us. Now, that's not always the case, since the sun is travelling around the North Pole. The closer you are to the north, the less you'll see the size change. There's also an effect that occurs under certain conditions called atmospheric lensing, where the sheer amount of atmosphere, as well as the rain between you and the sun, acts like a lens and a prism, magnifying it greatly, which leads to another observational proof that the sun setting is an optical effect. At such times, when the sun is setting over the sea, and it seems as though it's half hidden by the horizon, then you can zoom in with a high-powered zoom camera and see that it's actually still above the horizon.
3/4 tego filmu mogę zdebunkować wstawkami z Kajfana.
Jak sobie weźmiemy taki obrazek i będziemy go oddalać w kierunku horyzontu płaszczyzny, to punkty A i B będą się zbliżać do linii horyzontu, ale nigdy tej linii nie przekroczą. Ten obrazek będzie cały czas taki sam. A powyżej horyzontu, B poniżej, tylko będzie coraz mniejszy. A jak ucieknie bardzo, bardzo daleko, to ja sobie mogę wziąć teleskop i go znowu zobaczyć. Ale jak słońce zajdzie, to go nie ma, bo jest fizycznie pod horyzontem.
So what about the moon? We all witness the moon only illuminating the local clouds around it. That is because it is also a local light, but one with opposite effects from the sun. As we can all agree, shade from the sun is cooler than direct sunlight.
Co?
Shade from the sun is cooler than direct sunlight.
No shit, Sherlock.
But at times, we can see stars through the moon, proving it is not some solid rock 238,900 miles away.
Well, that will never happen.
People actually believe they walked on the moon, talked with Nixon, played golf, drove a car, and planted a flag.
If you really believe that Neil Armstrong took the first step, then why do you give any credit to the cameraman already there waiting for him?
It's as simple as using a zero-G plane and strapping a harness to their belt. Then, just like Batman movies, they remove the wires using a computer. At times, the manipulation reveals itself.
Erik Dubej chyba nie wie, co to jest cień.
Here we see Europe's space agency at NASA's studios using a blue screen with grids.
A więc tak. Żeby dobrze kijować, najlepiej jest mieć green screen, który jest równomiernie oświetlony, a nie jak tutaj, że lewy górny róg jest bardzo niebieski, a prawy dolny róg jest prawie czarny. Obecnie się blue screenów raczej nie używa. Dlaczego?
But filmmakers realized they could use the blue strip for the blue screen process because not only is it farthest from human flesh tones, be they Black Panther or White Asian Lady, but the blue strip also happened to have the finest grain, which in today's terms we might think of as resolution.
Then humanity said, hey, polluting our planet with tons of plastic and chemicals seems lame and expensive. How about instead we make movies using digital technology? A few guys were like, no way, Jose. I love the crappy look of film and I'm gonna keep using it. Also, vinyl records sound better. The rest of the world said, okay, you do you, grandpas. We're gonna stick silicon chips in our cameras that have microscopic photo sensors and make the Eastman Kodak Company file for bankruptcy. This was called the digital cinema revolution. A change so monumental, we're still experiencing its after effects. First you need to ask yourself a simple question: whom is this technology for? And the answer almost always is apes. Descendants of apes whose retinas evolved much more sensitivity to luminance than to color. Being able to detect a lion leaping at your face takes precedence over being able to admire its majestic mane. And what little color sensitivity our retinas have is extremely biased toward green, probably because of all the green. So when devising a way to distribute red, green, and blue wavelengths of light onto a limited number of elements on a photosensor array, a scientist named Bryce Baer invented and swiftly patented the Baer filter, a recursive pattern that dedicates half the sensors to green and splits the other half between red and blue. Why bother imitating reality when you can simply imitate an ape's perception of reality at 1/3 the cost? A version of the Baer filter is present in every camera using a CMOS chip, from the phone in your pocket to the Red Epic stereo rigs that filmed all 474 excruciating minutes of the Hobbit trilogy. Each gives us a decent red channel, an abysmally noisy blue channel, and a crisp, clean green channel with effectively double the resolution, making green the obvious choice for chroma key work. And by choice, I of course mean the illusion of choice, spread like wispy strands of a fragile web of free will, pathetically cocooning our ape brains until they die, followed closely by the heat death of the universe.
This technology has been used for decades. It works best for 3D and live manipulation. It's funny. Once NASA was caught red-handed, they produced a couple of senseless videos 8 months later, trying to pretend like they always use them for science experiments, knowing damn well it was too late.
Pierwsza rzecz, ten grid na tych ujęciach z TV wygląda troszeczkę inaczej niż ten używany przez NASA. To w końcu ESA czy NASA?
Here we see Europe's space agency at NASA's studios using a blue screen with grids. Once NASA was caught red-handed, they produced a couple of senseless videos 8 months later.
Druga rzecz, znając dokładne wymiary jednego takiego kwadratu, można obliczyć, z jaką prędkością porusza się obiekt. To widać na ostatnim filmie, który pokazujecie.
These people lie to your face in the hope that you will not do your own research. NASA knows that most are too lazy to dig through its massive rabbit hole.
We're not watching any actual footage of space. It's all CGI.
Except for one in 1972, which is fake. They have one picture. They say one is real, 1972. All the rest is CGI. Like, where are the pictures of Earth from space? I want to see the sun over here and the moon over there. People should have posters and all over the world. People should have these epic pictures.
First off, obviously this is going to be a space scene, so I first used the star's image as a background. I added a simple outer glow to the layer itself, and then I added a big ass glow on top of everything.
Jeśli do kogoś to nie dociera, to tak, to jest Photoshop. Ale to jest chyba oczywiste.
They do sometimes exaggerate, like claiming they used a NASA camera 1.6 million miles away to take this alleged video of the dark side of the moon. It doesn't take a genius to see how undeniably computer-generated this image is.
Można tu nawet zaobserwować niedoskonałości pracy systemu pobierania obrazu, bo 3 kolory, z których składa się obraz, są pobierane po kolei w ciągu 30 sekund, a w tym czasie księżyc się porusza.
So you're telling me gravity is strong enough to hold oceans onto it, battling inertia from the spin. So gravity's holding oceans, and inertia's trying to pull it out and make it fling. Skyscrapers would fling off the Earth, but this gravity's holding these. It's so strong, it's holding the ocean, but it can't hold a helium balloon.
No może trudno w to uwierzyć, ale to właśnie grawitacja sprawia, że balon z helem unosi się w górę. I nie robiłby tego, gdyby grawitacja nie istniała. Przyjrzyjmy się dlaczego. Siła wyporu działa przeciwnie do siły ciążenia, a jej wartość jest równa ciężarowi wypartego płynu. W wypadku balonu wyparte przez niego powietrze waży więcej niż on sam, więc siła wyporu skierowana w górę jest większa niż ciężar balonu. Dlatego ten się unosi. No dobrze, ale dlaczego w ogóle siła wyporu istnieje i co ma z tym wspólnego grawitacja? Otóż atmosfera, tak jak ocean, ma tym wyższe ciśnienie, im niżej zejdziemy. Tutaj będzie wyższe niż parę centymetrów powyżej. Oczywiście na małym dystansie różnica będzie minimalna, ale nie zerowa. Na balon działa więc ciśnienie, które od dołu jest nieco wyższe niż od góry, więc balon ku górze jest pchany silniej niż w dół i na boki. Ta różnica ciśnień jest źródłem siły wyporu.
Every rocket goes up and then levels out. Most of NASA's rockets launch from Florida and head towards the Bermuda Triangle.
Tak naprawdę to nie.